Hey guys.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hey.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lori.
I'm Haley.
And this is Hugo Girl, a hilarious podcast where we talk about science fiction and fantasy and adjacent works.
And the Terror.
Right.
And Moby Dick.
Moby Dick.
And food and flossing.
Right. Adjacent topics, obviously, to science fiction and fantasy. Any follower acknowledgement comments?
Yes.
Yes.
We got a nice review.
Yes, it makes her whole month.
Yes. On Apple Podcasts. And it's from Jessica, who I work with. She's a nice coworker. And she listens, and she left us this very, very nice review. And it says, delightful, thought-provoking, and hilarious.
That's us.
Yep. It feels like my fantasy version of book club where the selection is sci-fi every time. Everyone actually reads the book and took notes. And the attendees all have something witty or interesting to say, and they manage to crack themselves up the whole way through.
Yes, we do.
I don't know. Is that gauche that we laugh at our own jokes? I don't care. The host's fresh feminist take on a wide variety of Hugo winners is insightful without getting pedantic. I also enjoy the curmudgeonly but good-humored asides on grammar and editing. Amy, shout out to Amy.
I have some thoughts today.
Even when they are breaking down the book with some well-deserved critique, the hosts do it in a way that feels authentic, humble, and without malice. I also heart the fantastic subtitles for each episode. Personal fave so far, ship protect, ship attack. Keep up the great work, 1410 would recommend. My favorite thing about this is our second review that says that our criticisms are done without malice.
We're very well-meaning and humble, which I think we're pretty great at being humble.
Me too. We're the best at it. I also wanted to follow up on our cookbook episode briefly.
Okay.
You know, I had all that tremula and all that beetroot chutney. And the beetroot chutney I wanted to add was delicious over some pasta later on in the week.
It was so good.
It was really good with pasta. And I think, like, without even blending it into a chutney, just like the prep version of it, the roasted beets with all the goodies, that'd be a good side dish too. And then last night, I used up about half of the leftover tremula, because you may recall I only needed 1 teaspoon for the recipe, so I had a lot. And I made shrimp with it, and it was delicious. And we just had some claw from Dragon Rider, not White Claw, K-L-A-H, from the Dragon Riders of Pern that is in the cookbook, and that was yummy too. That's Amy finishing her claw. Kevin might edit that out. That's all my housekeeping.
I hate to say it, but my cheese pottage and my mushrooms, I did combine them at some point into just one big mushroom and cheese soup, and it was good one day, and then the next day it was not good anymore. I don't know what happened there.
The vinegar and the cream.
It only lasted for so long.
That's true. Vinegar plus cream.
Yeah, but that was a good time.
That was a good time. I had fun. Thanks for doing that with me, guys.
Yeah, good time. Okay, so we read All Systems Red, the first of the Murderbot Diaries series for today's episode. It is a 2017 novella by Martha Wells. It won the 2017 Nebula Award and the 2018 Hugo Award for Best Novella. And I don't know of anything in particular interesting about it winning. Anybody have any details?
I remember reading that all of the novellas were published at once, and they were all nominated, and she declined a nomination for all but one.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That explains something, because when I was looking for goodies by Goodreads,
people were so mad that they were broken up.
That it got split up. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it wasn't released like sequentially.
It may have been
That's good
released.
context.
Well, I'm not sure how it was released, but like they all came out the same year, I think.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense then.
That's what I remember from the top part of Wikipedia when I was reading about it.
She did later, fairly recently, I think, come out with a novel, a Murderbot novel.
Yeah, that's nominated for Best Novel this year.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, she's on the list. What's the name of it? I can't remember.
Two Murder, Two Bot.
Yes.
Murderbot 6 Electric Boogaloo. Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. And I will say, now that I know that is a little strange. Why not just make them into one book?
Yeah, I didn't realize that, and people were saying it cost like $36 to buy all of them. So that was the underlying a lot of the negative reviews. They're not actually about the book.
That's what I noted too. And I was like, are these people just really cheap? Did they not know they were buying a novella? But now it makes more sense.
Yeah, and well, because when I bought this in 2018, I bought just the one on Amazon for my Kindle, but like they're published through Tor, which is also a website. So I wonder if it's like maybe it was cheap to publish them separately. I don't know.
Maybe. Tor also publishes, I think they originally did like the Wheel of Time and stuff
that's
like
true.
that, so.
I'm more familiar with it as a website, I guess.
You know, this is so funny, this coming up, because I thought they were a publisher. And then I looked it up recently.
There we go.
In fact, no, they mostly do the website. Tor.
They are a publisher, though.
Tor, what are you?
Yeah, they are.
Because most of the nominees, there's like some discussion about how they seem to kind of have their publications seem to kind of have a stranglehold on Hugo nominations.
Interesting.
I have no opinion on that. I'm not educated on it. I've just seen a lot of discussion.
Or is it just that if you publish the most of a genre, you're going to inevitably have the most nominations?
Don't
It's like
know,
I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and we had more pregnancies, but we also had more women.
Yeah, that's
So
the book that is nominated this year for Best Novel is called Network Effect.
thank you. Not Expedition something.
no, you're just reading The Expanse.
I'm reading The Expanse. Ah, those books are so good. You know, one day we should read that whole series because it won one time.
I was going to tell our listeners, y'all know that I'm not a big fantasy person, but I like my queer high fantasy book that I'm reading that's 800 pages.
Oh, I thought you didn't like it. You like it now? Or did you not like it at first? Or am I making that
I'm
up?
reading it. I think I like it.
Okay.
What's the name of it?
The Priory of the Orange Tree.
I saw that in the bookstore I was in Salt Lake City. I
I'm
thought of
digging
you.
it. It's not, there's not any horses. Well, there is, but not a lot.
Any hobbits?
No, there's mainly humans.
Dwarves?
Nope. There's it's
Tell me how it's fantasy.
it's more like Game of Thrones. There's like Oliphants, and then there's
That's right. If you have an
There's a
elephant, it's
queendom.
definitely fantasy.
It's like mildly medieval.
yeah. Well, so it's very much like it's like if England and Japan were very close. So there's like a Western thing with dragons, and there's an Eastern thing with dragons.
Oh,
and
there's
they,
dragons. Okay.
and they call the dragons High Westerns, which I think is funny.
the name of like the species
The type of dragon, I don't know. They said a High Western. It sounds like a meteorological front or something.
or a kind of horse.
A thoroughbred.
Yeah.
A High Western.
The dragons are the horses.
Potato.
So I'm reading that, y'all.
Okay. I'm proud of you.
I will do anything for a gay character.
Which reminds me, I still need to read Gideon.
Oh, Gideon is so good.
Should we just read Gideon for next time?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, so this is going to be a very brief plot summary because it's not a very long book. And frankly, while some things happen, not a lot happens. So the story is told from the point of view of a Murderbot, a quasi-human cyborg provided by an unnamed corporation to provide security for a team of scientists exploring an uninhabited planet. The science team's mission goes off the rails when they discover another science team on the planet has been murdered. Dun, dun. Murderbot has to help the humans not be murdered and get off the planet. Murderbot is not supposed to be able to disobey the humans it's assigned to, but in a highly unauthorized move, Murderbot has hacked the governor module software that controls his actions and that obligates it to be obedient. So basically, it doesn't have to do what they say anymore. After the humans figure this out, Murderbot has to deal not only with keeping its team alive, but it also has to contend with the team's increasing insistence on treating the Murderbot as a human. This makes the Murderbot deeply uncomfortable, as it wants nothing more than to be left alone to watch its stories, which makes this murder machine deeply relatable to me. And then basically it's about him interacting with them, and then there's some action while they all try not to get killed. The end.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, goodies from Goodreads. I will say my favorite one, we talked about this already. I kind of did note that most people just seemed mad that they paid for a novella, and I couldn't figure out why, but now it makes sense. My favorite Goodreads was just this one line by this person, Althea, who said, "I was not capable of not loving Murderbot," which was how I felt. I was not capable of not loving Murderbot.
Same.
RJ, Slayer of Trolls on Goodreads, had a lot to say about the snarky tone of the book, which I think we should talk about at some point. Like Murderbot, it's very it's snarky. It's got a snarky tone.
Yeah.
He says, "Meet the next iteration of snarky dialogue. Snarky narration. That's right. The snarkiness brought to you by John Scalzi and his clones as a substitute for character development doesn't have to stop at witty rejoinders. Eek! Now you can get a steady stream of it all book long, in this case, courtesy of a Murderbot, which is a security robot with a troubled past. It's probably the bot character that is causing this brief flurry of irrationally exuberant popularity here at Goodreads. That and the snarkiness, which is like being dipped into the mind of a sulky teenage girl, but with 100% less Justin Bieber references." And actually, when he said that, it made me start thinking about something, which I would like to talk about. Everybody knows you don't go full Skynet. Story is nothing special, but it moves along at a relatively brisk pace, and Wells's color by number prose is adequate for maximum snarkiness delivery. Proceed at your own risk.
Oh, my.
He did not. He didn't like it, guys. I don't think he liked it. I'm assuming it's a him.
Yeah, probably.
Did you guys find anything?
Yeah.
Everyone loves this book, so it wasn't much fun to
Delve into the bad reviews.
It was just like, yeah, people like it.
People did like it.
It's a Murderbot.
I have one. This is from Goodreads user Lovely Day. And you have to know a little bit of Goodreads lingo. So DNF means did not finish. And Lovely Days review says, DNF'd at 5% at first F word.
Oh, goodness. Murderbot's too dirty.
I mean, do you only read like Berenstain Bears then? Like what? If that is enough for you to just walk away from a book, like, whew.
Especially a book about murderbots.
You picked up a book called Murderbot.
What did you think? I mean, goodness. I thought they were just going to pick flowers and say nice things.
I read the Christian Geeks review of this, and they were okay with the profanity.
Yeah, I mean, no one's saying it to you.
Yeah.
They didn't say you F off.
I'm also an adult.
I know. It's okay. You can not let it affect your life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of the F word, so.
I say it a lot.
There was only 1% 1-star reviews. This is an overwhelmingly well-liked book.
I noticed that too. 1%. I saw 1% 1 and 1% 2 on both Amazon and Goodreads. And then there were some 3s. I think the 3s were mostly like, it was kind of short, not well developed. I'm like, is that really fair? It's a novella.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, general discussion. It's a really short book. There's not a whole lot to delve into, but the first thing I wanted to ask was, Haley, have you read Martha Wells' Star Wars book?
Which one is it?
It's Empire and Rebellion Razor's Edge.
I don't believe so. It must be one of the newer ones.
Dang it. I was really curious about that, whether it was any good. Oh, well.
I'll look it up.
Guys, Martha Wells wrote a Star Wars book.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's written a ton. I was reading about her.
Do you guys like novellas?
I think I do. I'm not really a short story reader because I like a little more story. But yeah, I like a nice tight novella that gives me a complete story and I don't have to slog through anything. Like, this is a very efficient story.
Yeah, I agree.
So it wasn't just like 2 pages.
Which is the opposite of some of the things we've been reading.
Right, yeah.
And that's what we, often criticize books for is like, this shouldn't have been 500 pages.
Right.
It should have been 200.
Like,
Well,
yeah.
and like to go back to The City in the City, where I was talking about how like we wanted to know more about the background of the cities, and I contrasted it with Bloodchild, where I was like, in Bloodchild, you're just like dropped in the middle of this situation. You don't know the backstory, but for some reason, it's like, even though you want to know the backstory, you can still really enjoy what you have. And I felt like that with this. I would like to know more about this universe. I hope to find out more about this universe, but I was still very happy with this story.
I was interested so most of the story takes place on an uninhabited planet. So like, she doesn't really need to build out the world that much because that's not, the inhabited world isn't really where it takes place.
Yeah.
But you get to, that there are corporations controlling access to uninhabited planets. You know that there are different kinds of governments on different kinds of planets. You get what a murderbot is. You get that there are other kinds of bots. Like, you get a lot about the world, even though it doesn't take place there and there's no like exposition really.
Yeah. Well, and I was never confused, which is always a good sign.
Right. Yeah. Like the confusion. I don't have the confusion from a lack of information like I had with City in the City.
Yeah. And a lot of the company corporation stuff is such a standard trope in sci-fi that you're already familiar with it. And you're like, okay, I know what's going on. So,
did you guys get the sense of whether the corporation was supposed to be good, bad, neutral?
I was neutral about it.
Neutral bad?
Yeah, I mean, like, every corporation's bad.
Because Murderbot does tell us that, I can't remember if it implies that they might have taken a bribe to not share some information that could ultimately pose a safety risk, or if it said that it wouldn't do that because it would damage its potential future contracts. I don't know. It seems like it's definitely not good.
Well, and they're cheap too, like
that was it. The worst thing they had to say about them really was that they were money oriented.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, I think you skew toward evil if you are making judgment calls about like health and safety and life, like quality of life based on economics, which is like basically what corporations do.
Yeah.
So I think they all land a little on the evil side.
They're
I think.
like, what is it? Chaotic evil or something.
Lawful evil.
Oh yeah,
lawful evil.
Darth Vader.
Like the more money you pay, the safer and healthier you'll be. But even if you pay a lot of money, you're not going to get great upholstery.
Yeah, they don't wish you ill, but they don't care in sort of a morally bankrupt way.
Yeah, they're doing a very cost benefit analysis.
Do y'all know y'all's alignment?
Oh, I think that I am lawfully neutral.
That's what I am.
Yeah, okay. So novella works here, I think. I already bought the second one. I'm interested in getting more into the world and seeing what happens to our little murder box. Should I spoil the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
so
what-
at the end, our Murderbot gets bought by one of the scientists, the lead scientist on this team, and they're like, "You're going to come back to the planet with us, and you're going to be free, quote unquote, free, but like it, kind of still obligated to live with this person because."
It has to have a guardian.
And Murderbot had no idea how to be in society and that sort of thing. So instead of going to live with the person who bought it, Murderbot packs up and takes off on a cargo ship and buys passage on the cargo ship by promising to show the cargo ship AI all of its entertainment.
Oh, I love it. I love that.
He's like, I have so many stories. Let me on. We'll watch TV together into the void.
Do you know what that just reminded me of? In the courtship of Princess Leia, when C-3PO was trying to find out some hot goss and he goes to talk to like the city AI to find out what's going on. I can't remember the details. Haley, maybe you remember, but he definitely did that. He went to go like check with another robot to find out.
Yeah, I mean, it's either him or R2-D2 plugging in.
You're right.
Frame.
So Murderbot takes off, and I'm interested to see what Murderbot gets into. And if Murderbot ever comes back to her, it's humans. I'm curious. Because it's not like Murderbot didn't like its humans. But this gets into one of the things I was going to talk about. So it's like, Murderbot's freedom, quote unquote, is bought by
Dr. Mensa,
yeah.
who's the leader of the expedition that he's assigned to.
Yes. Do you think this is supposed to have a slavery subtext? Or am I reading into it too much?
No, I think it does.
They address it explicitly.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
because
Maybe I passed it by.
Murderbot is like, well, I've been bought, but I'm not free.
Yeah.
I can't just go get an apartment and a job. Like, I don't get to do that.
But they talk about how on some planets, like the preservation people, they have more rights for these types of creatures than
Yeah.
others. So,
Yeah.
but they still have to have like a guardian ad litem.
Yeah.
These are sentient creatures who had something literally built into their heads that forces them to be obedient, up to and including tearing each other limb from limb for the entertainment of the people who own them. And it's an interesting, sort of foray into that, I think, because because our Murderbot is sort of coming into its own humanity as we kind of watch and trying to figure out what it can have and what it wants, which is a new, I think, different thing from Murderbot. I don't think they
It took a while for me to understand exactly what, because I think going into it, I assumed that he was a robot. And then you get more and more details. And so they're definitely born human.
Oh, really? I did not think that.
Oh, I don't know. Like, that's
Oh,
just
I
like,
think they're like cybrids, kind
Yeah, I
of.
think they're created.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell, and I still don't know. So.
I don't know. I don't know if we really know.
Yeah.
That was my assumption, was that they were created as Murderbots. But
When I was reading it, I couldn't imagine a robot saying these things, so I assumed that it was a man that has like been mostly made into like Darth Vader kind of.
this
I
is
guess.
actually funny because this is one thing I was going to ask you guys. If you guys grafted man, woman, or nothing onto the Murderbot, so you're talking about it like you thought it was a man.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to picture it as a woman, and I couldn't.
That's so funny. I pictured it a woman the whole time.
I tried to picture nothing. Like, I just tried to picture very neutral, and I almost always ended up back toward man. Like, in scenes where its helmet was up, I was imagining a man's face.
It's so funny because I was picturing a woman the whole time. Maybe it's just because a woman wrote it. I don't know, but like,
it just sounds like a man to me. I don't know.
it sounds like a woman to me.
A man who watches soap operas.
Right. I don't know why. That's so funny. That's
Yeah.
really funny.
I pictured like a big, beefy, like actually, I pictured the guy who plays Jango Fett in Star Wars, just like a dark-haired man.
I think I pictured kind of a Brienne of Tarth character,
I mean, I think that makes it more interesting.
sort of.
I was imagining just sort of like a Ken doll, like a very nondescript.
Smooth like a
yeah,
Ken doll?
smooth, muscular, nondescript kind of appearance.
I think it could go either way. I think that it's written so that you could really graft whatever you want onto this Murderbot.
And I'll say I'll own that it's probably a little internalized sexism that I imagined it as a man, because it's like a strong security. It's a bodyguard, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of just defaulted to big, beefy man.
Maybe it's because I'm reading The Expanse, but like the strongest, beefiest, gunniest person in The Expanse is a woman. So it's like maybe that's why I was leaking into my.
I didn't. I mean, I don't usually picture like a lot of visual detail. I just think he talks like a man. I don't know.
That's interesting. I would like examples, but I know you probably don't have them ready.
No, I mean this is the personal, subjective thing. He talks like he reminds me very much of Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye. So.
Oh, see, that's so funny because when I read that review by this person who said it was like being in the mind of a sulky teenage girl, it made me start thinking about it in those terms, and I absolutely think that's correct.
Yeah,
it
no.
sounds like a sort of like pissed off like adolescent girl to me.
Well, on that note, and you haven't read Gideon yet, but it reminded me of the same narrative style of Gideon the Ninth. where it's got like that snarkiness, which I will say I think we all kind of agree that sarcasm is it's not, we don't like it that much. It's not that nice. Just in general, like I don't like when people are sarcastic. I don't think it's cute.
Yeah.
And I don't normally like snark as a thing. But I think this book and Gideon both have that, but are like tempered with a lot of sensitivity and like sincerity. Like Murderbot is snarky, and you can see from the inside that it's like a defense mechanism.
Right.
And then they begrudgingly develop this very real affection for their people and put their own life on the line for their people, even though they don't have to. So I think I found it fun and tolerable. But if
The
it was
snark
just like
factor.
nonstop snark without that, I wouldn't have liked it.
I definitely think that line gets walked very well.
Yes.
Murderbot reminds me of one of my ex-girlfriends. So, who
Are we rethinking our gender?
who only liked to watch TV, hated people, and just wanted to be left alone. So
Who's this? Kevin will edit it out.
reminds me.
Kevin, will you just put a
So Murderbot to me, like, I did not like this book, but Murderbot I thought was just like, if I heard one more time how he doesn't care, I was just
Oh, I thought that was very funny because like the
I didn't laugh
people,
once.
the people are so dumbfounded when they're like, "Oh, didn't you read the file?" And Murderbot's like, "No," and they're like, "Why?" And Murderbot's like, "I wasn't interested in your life story," and the people just cannot believe it that their security droid made the choice to know less about them because it would rather watch TV, and they just can't believe it. I laughed out loud at that part.
I did too. I thought it was great. I don't know. In the Murderbot's internal narrative dialogue, what's the word? Monologue. Reminds me at my most depressed. It's just like cannot gather the energy to give a crap about most things. I just want to watch Angel over and over and over again.
Yeah, I guess I didn't understand, like, does Murderbot just want to sit in a closet and watch TV?
Yes, for sure.
100%.
So, like, why does he care about freedom then?
Because he doesn't have. I don't know. Well, he says he did. He hacked his governor module. I've started saying he because it went nuts that one time and killed a bunch of people. And it hacked its governor module as some sort of defense mechanism against that. It sounded like or in response to what they did to it after it did all that. It was some sort of self-preservation urge, right? But and the Murderbot says at one point, like, when I did that, I could have either gone insane and killed everybody, or do what I did, which was discover that there's unlimited entertainment in the world, and I'm just going to sit and watch that.
Yeah.
So like, it's just the way its personality skewed. It just wanted to sit and watch TV. But I think also it was a little bit of a like, because when you're super depressed, like sitting and watching other people be people and not having to interact with those people and not having to contend with anything, not having to deal with it is really appealing. So I think it had something to do with its mindset. It just sort of wasn't prepared to have to be a person. And so
It's in a dead-end job.
yeah, it
Didn't choose that job. That job was foisted on it. It doesn't like its job, and it just wants to watch TV. I identify with that to a degree. I mean, I like my job, okay? If anyone's listening, I like my job. I like my job. But I think we all identify with, like, I just won't want to stay home and watch TV today. And Murderbot never chose that job for itself. So why wouldn't it want to just only watch TV?
Yeah, and I think also it's exhausting and overwhelming to have to deal with actual humans when you're not in a good mental space. But you can feel like you're getting human interaction, and you can feel like you're being acted upon by passively watching TV and passively consuming entertainment in those moments. So I don't know. I've never identified with a character more in my life than Murderbot. I don't know.
One of my favorite parts is when Murderbot's in the room full of everyone talking, and Mensa has been like, I know you hate this, but you need to open up your mask because they're going to be less afraid of you if they look at you and they're like, oh, you're at least somewhat human. And they can see you that way and, help them see you as a person and not a threat. So Murderbot has their helmet open, and then they just get so uncomfortable that they go and face the wall while they're talking. And I was like, oh, I feel, we've all wanted to do that. Like, it's, everyone knows what it's like to want to disappear in a situation. And Murderbot doesn't have years and years and years of conditioning to, like, force yourself through a conversation that you don't want to be in. So Murderbot's just like, I'm noping out of this. I'm going to put myself in the corner. I could rip everybody's head here right off their shoulders. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go stand in the corner.
I don't know. I found that all charming.
Oh, me too. I was really rooting for Murderbot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just, he did not strike a chord with me.
Yeah.
So.
I like that Murderbot isn't particularly great at much besides protection. Like, so many things that we read, you know, there's like the whole Mary Sue trope, like someone's good at everything. Ender is good at everything. And, you know, so many characters in sci-fi and fantasy are good at everything. They're like the special teenager, you know, with the, Harry Potter kind of character. And Murderbot's like, yeah, I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I've hacked myself so I can watch TV all day. And I like that. I like that Murderbot has a very average... he does have a very particular set of skills, but is also very average at those things. And it still does its best. It makes the conscious choice to do its best with what it has, which isn't much. It hasn't been given much.
It talks about the sort of crappy education that they give Murderbots, and he's like, there is something I'm supposed to learn something about this, but I didn't really learn it that well, so I don't really know.
Yeah,
it's kind of good.
It's apathetic in a lot of ways, but when it counts,
and also just uneducated in a lot of ways.
It makes the choice to try its best, and I like characters like that who are just doing their best with what they have.
Yeah. I read an NPR review. I was curious what you guys had to say about this. Whether you think this is just too much English major. This person said there are subtexts to be read into Murderbot. That its experience is a coming out narrative, that it mirrors the lives of trans people, immigrants, those on the autism spectrum, or anyone else who feels the need to hide some essential part of themselves from a population that either threatens or can't possibly understand them, or both. And I get all of that because every one of those reads is right.
I read that review, yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that's right?
I agree. I think that's right. And I thought at the end, I was thinking about it as like a passing narrative. Because if Murderbot doesn't have their armor on and they wear their skin suit, which I'm dying to know what exactly is the skin suit.
I also really want to know.
Yeah, I want to know what skin suit is.
Skin, Lori?
But we know that their face looks like a human face. So if they put on a full outfit of clothes, they could visually pass for a human. So I was thinking about that at the end in terms of a passing narrative. And I mean, you can pass in terms of your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your race. You know, I mean, passing is something that occurs and affects many marginalized populations, and so that's what I saw happening at the end.
That is really interesting. I didn't think about that, but that's true, and especially feeds back into the slavery thing we were talking about before. Like, people would get out of slavery, and then the whiter they were, the more likely they were to be able to integrate into the whiter they looked, the more likely they were to be able to integrate into society and not worry about being harassed or captured or anything like that. That's interesting. I think.
Unless somebody outed them. Right. So even if you are able to pass, you're still in constant danger.
Yes,
and I think that's true here with Murderbot, because now Murderbot's basically a fugitive.
Yeah, I guess he is, because like he's supposed to stay with his guardian, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So legally, Murderbot, I think, is a fugitive, and I think authority figures would probably consider them very dangerous.
They got to send a Blade Runner.
What's that?
They got to send a Blade Runner to get him.
Maybe that's the next thing that happens. They send a Blade Runner.
I can't wait to read the next one. And Kevin got me a Kobo for my birthday, and I am just loving it. After being so resistant to an e-reader.
And great.
So they have their merits.
Well, I went straight to the library and got a library card. I never had a library card before. And I was very excited to get the second book, and it's on like a 15-week
Oh yeah,
delay.
You're going to be borrowing mine. I went to a little bookstore in Salt Lake and I bought it, so I'll let you borrow it. I got you, girl.
Did I tell you the funny thing about getting my library card? The librarian was telling me about all the things that you can get with the library card now, and not just paper books. And
there's a lot, yeah.
She was like, and we have, ebooks and audiobooks. And she said, and if you go to such and such, you can watch movies. And she said, we have over this many adult movies. And I had a mask on, so I think I had no visible reaction.
No, your eyebrows went to your scalp.
I knew what she meant. I knew she meant like films, not like Dora the Explorer that I can download and watch. I knew she just meant like movies. But she stopped herself and she goes, "What? I just mean movies. I don't mean porn." And she goes, "We are still the public library."
Now, what if they started carrying porn?
One thing that I don't like about the Fulton County Library is that they keep all of the LGBTQ books in their own section right by the register.
Huh.
So they will pull books out of the fiction section, out of the biography section, out of the nonfiction section, and put them all in a rainbow ghetto so that I guess people don't go and do bad things. As if gay people do that. I don't know.
That's also a complaint about some black writers complain about their books being in the African American section.
I mean, the same thing's been said about science fiction as well.
Interesting.
The ghettoization of science fiction, like taking it out of literature.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing, but it's certainly worse to take a marginalized community's literature and put it on its own shelf.
My very privileged, unexamined response to that has always been, this is a special interest section. Like, people who are interested in this can now easily find it I think
what it is that people don't like gay sex, because there's plenty of books in straight novels that have explicit sex scenes. There's entire romance sections that get put in with literature, though. So
N.K. Jemisin has at least tweeted fairly extensively about not wanting to see her books in the African American section. She's like, it's science fiction and it's fantasy. That's where it should be, and it has less in common with Ta-Nehisi Coates' book of essays than it does with Lord of the Rings,
right?
You know, so she's written about that before and been like, if you see my books in the African American section,
reshelve them.
They don't belong there.
No,
yeah,
true.
And I mean, I'm sure people, reasonable people can disagree about that, but it's definitely a conversation.
I'm glad we had this conversation. I'd never thought about that before.
They take even an author that is gay that doesn't write about being gay, they put in the gay section.
Huh?
It's very weird. I don't like it.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Let's see why.
I've only ever seen it done at the Fulton County Ponce Library, so maybe it's not like other places. So
the other thing I would probably have thought prior to this conversation, and now I'll re-examine this, is that they were putting it front and center to show how proud they were that they had LGBT things.
No, I don't know. I always felt weird going to get like a Truman Capote book, which is just, he's just a gay man, but didn't write about being gay.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
In
That
Cold
makes
Blood
sense.
is on the LGBT shelf.
yes.
Well, that's not where that belongs.
No. So that's my story about that. My other story about the library. So I go to the library probably about once a week and have for most of my adult life. One time I thought I lost a book, but I ended up not. So my record is clear. But I thought I lost a book called Vagina. It was like a cultural history or a biography. Some,
Non-fic book
yeah.
about.
But I had to go up and tell the person working the front desk that it was, I lost my vagina book. And it was this old man. And he'd be like, which book is it? And I was like, Vagina, sir. And he'd be like, oh, we got to put a search on the vagina book. And for 10 minutes, it was just me and him talking about a vagina book.
I feel like that's a Portlandia sketch or something. That's really funny.
I have a picture of him, and he looked like the father from Family Matters.
Oh, Carl Winslow.
Yeah.
Carl Winslow.
So
Officer Carl Winslow?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Reginald Bell Johnson.
back and forth. And then I ended up going home, and then because at a lot of libraries, if you report a book lost, they'll send somebody internally to go look for it, like maybe it got misshelved.
Right.
And I ended up finding it at home when I moved, but...
I am glad they have a book called Vagina. They don't have porn because they are still the public library. A brief history of vaginas. What else?
That was about it. That's about all I had. Does anybody have anything else?
I like that. So he's obsessed with a soap opera called Sanctuary Moon, which is what they call Endor in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, that's nice.
Hey, see, that's
like
good.
that.
That's good color commentary.
What else? I think this book is fine. One thing that I did not like was it's a little bit heavy-handed about armor, like taking off your armor.
Did talk about the armor a lot.
His emotional armor.
Uh-huh.
I get it. He's got armor, y'all. I was a little confused. So obviously I want Murderbot to go to therapy. I think he's got incredibly low self-esteem. So he calls himself Murderbot. But at best, he's a Walmart security bot, right?
That's right. So he calls himself Murderbot, but his actual term is sec unit,
Yeah,
security
like security
unit.
guard.
Yeah. So he calls himself Murderbot, and it's true. It's a self-hatred term that I'm going to need Murderbot to learn to let go of.
Because if it thinks of itself that way, then no one can hurt it by calling it a murderer because it's already done it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, Lori.
Yeah. I mean, I get all this intellectually. I think one of the things that I hate most on this planet, though, is apathy. So I was like, Murderbot, come on.
Well, the thing about Murderbot's apathy is it's definitely a defense mechanism. And what I like is that you see it growing out of that because it does come to care about the humans. That it didn't care enough about them to read their personnel files. Which, I mean, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't on your coworkers. I would. I'm nosy.
100% I would.
But yeah, so Murderbot goes from being like, I didn't give a shit about reading your file to I'm going to jump into the mouth of this sandworm to save you. And I'm going to save this other person that's going to slow me down. And my programming wouldn't let me, but I'm making the active choice to save this person. So it's like the apathy is definitely a front. I mean, it's got some apathy. It's like, I didn't care about your file, but it's definitely a front. And I think it's coming out of that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I think, to me, the most touching part of Murderbot, because he says that he doesn't care the entire book. I get it. I know that's a front. And then he shows dedication to saving them. But the one thing I think that did like emotionally hit me in terms of showing that he cares was after he gets done rescuing them from the big sand monster or whatever. There's video of him like just talking to them like, hey, how's your wife? Do you got kids?
Yeah.
That's like the one time where I was like, okay, Murderbot, I see that you care in a way that is true instead of saying, I don't care, but then I'll save your life. Like, that was one way that I really appreciated it.
That was literally what I was going to say when we started talking at the same time. That was one of my favorite reveals.
That was a really beautiful scene.
When they showed Murderbot what Murderbot said.
Yeah, like that was the one time in the book where I was like, okay, he does care. So,
Murderbot reminded me of Ancillary Justice in many ways, like Breck with a sense of humor. Like, I think Murderbot, the way Murderbot is starting to feel about Dr. Mensa reminded me of how Breck felt about Lieutenant On, if you all remember that. And it's not necessarily a romantic attachment, but it's like, there's definitely a love there. Mm-hmm. And, it drives Breck's like centuries-long quest for justice. And Ancillary Justice is decidedly not a comedy. But this reminded me of a similar kind of relationship where the AI develops an attachment that is not supposed to, and it's not predicted, it's not expected, but it develops this emotional attachment. But here, Murderbot's like, I think this actually isn't good for me because I really like her, and now she's my owner. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of town. So it's like sort of a comedic take on that.
Oh, and that's, at the end, you find out that the entire narrative has been a recording by Murderbot for Dr. Mensa to explain to Dr. Mensa what was going through Murderbot's head during this whole thing and why Murderbot left.
Yeah.
I forgot about that part.
Murderbot is...
I didn't know that.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did and I forgot immediately.
Maybe. It's not a huge
Sometimes
point.
that seems important. Sometimes I'm not a good reader.
Yeah. It was like the
a
last
good reader.
page of that.
Thanks, Amy.
Murderbot reminds me of the depressed, apathetic version of Johnny Five from Short Circuit. Because all Johnny Five wants, and I relate super well to Johnny Five because he just wants input and he wants to read and he wants to learn. And he loves his humans. He loves Ali Sheedy, like in a kind of an inappropriate way, actually. But so I think Murderbot gets there a little bit because like he's got all these TV shows and he wants, and I think by getting all this exposure to things, he becomes more human, which is a common trope in sci-fi. But yeah, he's just like Johnny Five needs Lex Pro.
I kind of think so does Murderbot.
Yeah. Oh no, Johnny Five is healthy, I think. But Murderbot is like Johnny Five, just
I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay.
with depression. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, God bless Murderbot. Guys, did you have a feminist fave?
Just the book.
Dr. Mensa was my feminist fave.
Yeah,
just in
Dr.
general.
Mensa is like the president of some governmental unit that we don't quite understand.
She has a short haircut.
Right. Does she, or did you speak that?
No, she says that he says that she does, and that he assumes that she is old because young people wouldn't be given a position of power.
Okay.
That's a fun assumption.
I do kind of like that since we're getting everything through Murderbot's. Now, this was a little point of contention in the reviews that I could see. It's like, because we're getting everything through Murderbot's perspective and Murderbot doesn't have a good handle on how humans grow and operate, you don't get a lot of characterization about the people on the science team. You get some, like you know that one of them is a augmented human and has some sort of...
They're all polyamorous.
They're all polyamorous. Some of them seem like they might be somewhere on the homosexuality spectrum.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
There's two lesbians in there.
Huh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Two of the team members are together, and I think they're both women.
Yeah.
I could not tell you one thing about any team member.
Well, that's what I say. So, you get it all through Murderbot, so it's not high on the characterization.
Yeah.
And some people were like, I didn't get to know these characters at all. They're all flat. But I think that makes sense since you're getting it through Murderbot's perspective. But,
Yeah.
But I did like what you did get from Murderbot, like what Murderbot thought was important about these people, like whether they were going to read the data and understand it, whether they were going to be like what they were going to do with regard to each other.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that was interesting.
I like how he describes them. He says, it was a low-stress group. They didn't argue much or antagonize each other for fun. And that's what I look for in friends.
Yeah.
I really liked that about this book, is that everyone, except for, the antagonists, which we don't see a whole lot of them, everyone is really trying to help each other. Even the guy that Murderbot kind of has an eye on and is a little worried about, I kept worrying that there was going to be some side quest where that guy stabbed them in the back, and he didn't. Yeah. Everyone really was just doing their best, and that's my favorite kind of story.
And he had a legitimate grievance about Murderbot. Like, he was like, this Murderbot doesn't have a governor module. This Murderbot could kill us all. I mean, that's a legitimate grievance. So, I mean, I didn't think that was
Murderbot has killed 57 people before.
Yeah.
Like, this augmented human person whose name I can't remember, like, I think he was sort of lightly painted as a potential antagonist.
Yeah.
But I thought he had a pretty good reason. So, I don't know. It didn't bother me.
It was not an unreasonable concern.
No, exactly. And he got over it with the correct input. So,
yeah.
Misogynist moment?
Nope.
Boob talk?
I think there are no boobs in this book.
I think
There's definitely no genitalia in this book.
But here's what I have a stand-in.
Okay.
I am currently reading Salem's Lot by Stephen King.
Oh.
And there are so many fucking boobs in that movie. Or in that book. So I started taking some boob notes. And I can share some boob.
Yes, please.
We need some surrogate boobs.
Yeah, I've got some surrogate. I've got a wet nurse, Stephen King.
Stephen King. God. Lori, take that back.
I'm sorry.
Stephen King is my wet nurse. That's the most appalling thing I've ever heard.
My boobs just felt weird when you said that. So this is my first Stephen King novel, but I have seen excerpts of his writing on the Men Write Women Twitter.
He's got a very specific style.
And when he decides to go sexy, it's a real left turn sometimes.
Or sexual assaulty, like an It.
Oh,
maybe
dear.
a little sexual assaulty.
Like
a 12-year-old.
Like a 7-page sexual assault.
Yeah, I skipped it because that was available from the library, and I skipped that because I felt like, there are kids in that. I don't want.
I do really like that book, though.
So Salem's Lot. Yeah, so this is my first Stephen King novel. It's Stephen King's second Stephen King novel. And there are passages in that book that are just beautiful, talking about the town and the
He loves
people.
Maine.
He's a good writer. Yep.
Listen to these boobs. So there's like a kind of bad guy in the town. This Salem's Lot. Have y'all read it? Mm-hmm. It's basically Dracula.
Yeah, I own it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's basically Dracula. So there's a character in the book who is the one who like rents the equivalent of Carfax Abbey to Dracula, and so he's like the town muckety muck real estate guy, lawyer guy, and he's talking about his secretary, and he thinks of his secretary's breasts as, quote, the most delectable set of Jahoobies you ever clapped an eye to.
Wait, hold on. I want to spell it. Jahoobies. Jahoobies. Jahoobies.
She stuck the landing.
Yeah.
and Jahoobies comes up more than once.
Jahoobies?
Yeah, but I just took down the one Jahoobie quote.
Is it a child? No, it's not. It's not a child talking about it.
No, it's an adult man talking about his like 20-year-old secretary.
Jahoobies. I mean, it rhymes with boobies.
Yeah, this has been Jahoob talk. So then there's another one.
I think this is a word he made up.
Oh, he's like Shakespeare.
Go ahead.
There's another one where he's talking about the false fronts on the buildings to like make them look like cute old buildings.
I know where this is going.
The people know there is nothing behind those false facades, just as most of them know that Loretta Starcher wears falsies.
Oh.
I have so much to say about like false facade. First of all, you don't need to say false facade. I've got it. And also in the previous sentence, you just said the fronts of the shops are all fake fronts. And then, like everyone knows, Loretta Starcher wears falsies. I just imagined him at his typewriter. He wrote that sentence. He sat back and looked at it and was like, that is so good.
What a metaphor.
So good. And then there's one where he's waxing eloquent about how a town sort of has a person that lives in it, and the town and the person are inextricably bound up in each other. And it's pretty good. And then it says, a man knows the town. You know the town like you know the shape of your wife's breast. Which one?
just the one, the left one, because we know the right one's a mess.
Listen, they're not shaped the same ever. Okay.
You just know the bigger one, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that's
Obviously
the one you pay
it's
the most attention to.
Obviously, it's the bigger one.
Or the one that's on the side of your dominant hand.
That's what Wanda Sykes says. All righties, always. I wonder what it's like to write a metaphor for only half the population.
Well, and women who like breasts.
Yeah, but like not even not even half the population, because not every man is married either. Not every man likes women. It's just very
Just some of
specific.
the population. Just some percentage.
Well,
of
and
the
a lot of people who like boobs also don't want to read this old man talking about Jahoobies.
That's true. There's definitely more eloquent ways to.
He
say it.
has some blind spots.
It's very funny. And when I first read the Jahoobi thing, I sat with it for a minute and I thought, well, this is being used to tell me that this is a lecherous character. So is it Stephen King calling them Jahoobies?
That's very forgiving. I like it.
Yes and no, because Stephen King wrote it, but it's also like definitely a device for saying this is a lecherous, creepy man. But like basically every man in that book has some thought to himself about someone's boobs.
It's the same way in The Stand, which I read half of. That's just he likes talking. I mean, it was the 70s. He likes talking about women. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better as he goes along either, by the way. I
but
think later when he tries to be a little more PC, his books get really boring.
I really like this book though.
I love Stephen King. I've read a whole lot of Stephen King.
This is my first one and I am really enjoying it, but there are some moments where I'm like, Stephen, you okay?
I think I'm going to name my next cat Jahoobies.
Jahoob.
All right, that's all the Jahoob talk that I have.
There's a very meta scene for soap stuff.
Oh yeah, they're literal soaps.
Was there any fantastic food? I don't think there was.
I don't think
No,
anyone eats.
they don't eat.
Okay, good. Soap stuff.
So at one point, and I don't have the specific thing he says, where they're like, man, he just like wants to watch soap operas, and they're like, yeah, because like that guy does the thing. He's like, no, he doesn't, and he's talking about the character. He's like, don't you talk about my story? She would never do that. So he likes his soap stuff.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of really want to watch Sanctuary Moon. I think it sounds kind of good.
Oh, well, and it's like Murderbot's kind of learned how to be a person from Sanctuary Moon.
Yeah.
Like, because how else did Murderbot know when a person is on the verge of having like a nervous breakdown, talking to them, and like Murderbot's kind of using grounding techniques. Like, tell me about your family, tell me to keep the person present and keep them from kind of really going off the rails emotionally. I think Murderbot probably learned that from Sanctuary Moon.
Yeah, I 100%.
So I think it's a great show.
I assumed that he'd also maybe watched like documentaries about everything, like
Possibly.
because if there's 35 million hours of whatever,
It can't all be Sanctuary Moon.
yeah.
I read one Goodreads review that said that Murderbot felt like a really good episode of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. And I wonder if Sanctuary Moon is kind of a Doctor Who show. Because Doctor Who is basically a soap opera.
Yeah. Oh,
With
yes.
space.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
I kind of think I might have learned how to be a human from Buffy.
Oh, yeah, it didn't hurt.
Yeah, I think I might have. Okay. Did you like the book?
Emphatically, I liked the book.
It was decent.
I liked the book.
Kevin really liked the book, too.
Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? For a minute, I was like, could it be neither? And then
Doctor Who.
I'm fine with that.
I think I'm okay with that.
There's not a ton of space in any meaningful way.
There are no rules here.
It's not really a hero's journey.
No, he's not really a hero.
I mean, it's a little Lord of the Rings because there's this ragtag group of people who have to get through the wilderness and get to safety. I mean, that's a thing, but that also happens in Star Wars. So
You could argue that a governor is basically a restraining bolt, which is what all the droids have in Star Wars, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars to me.
well, that is true. Star Wars has androids, and I mean, yeah,
That's true.
and
Lando Calrissian's like administrator guy, Lobot, who's the bald man with the thing around his head. He's like an android. There's not a ton of androids in Star Wars, though.
an Orakai, a Murderbot. They don't have inorganic parts. Okay, no, it's Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, coming up next time.
Okay. Coming up next, we will be reading for our September episode, The Three-Body Problem.
Woohoo.
And then for October, not sure yet if this will be our main episode or if it'll be a spooky special and we'll pick another book for a main episode. But we're going to read The Uninvited, which won a Retro Hugo for, I believe, 1944.
Yeah, I was at the beach July 4th weekend looking for spooky books, anticipating my early onset spooky season, and Googled haunted house books, and this came up as a retro Hugo, so I thought we should read it.
So I had my brand new Kobo and I got excited and I bought it and read it immediately. So I already read it and it is wonderful.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you to read it. It is everything that you wanted in a spooky book. It's full on haunted house.
Oh, it's all I
There
want.
are ghosts. There are other ghosts. There's a good twist.
And it's not just like, I feel like a lot of 1940s ones are like, it's just the memory of a wife. Is the scary metaphor.
Such a good book, and there's so much. I kept thinking of you, Haley. You're gonna love it. There's so much like fried an egg, made the coffee, cooked the
Ooh.
bacon. Like it's very evocative. The ghosts
excited.
are cool. The people are likable. The narrator is likable, but also kind of a D sometimes. There's a lot going on, and it is very good.
Great.
So if
I'm excited.
you have the opportunity to buy it and read it and listen along with us, I highly recommend it because that is a great book.
I have such fond memories of reading which one we read last October and making the little flannel hand.
Country Wife was awesome.
I enjoyed it.
That whole period of our lives was great.
It was a good spooky season last year. I anticipate a good one coming up. And so I'll tell y'all now, I am planning a party for around October. I've got to pick the people. I want it to be like around 10 people. So there's at least 4 of us going. I want to have a haunted doll party where you have to find or make a haunted doll and bring it to my house. And you have to write like a paragraph about why it's so haunted.
A paragraph.
Because I want a backstory to this doll.
love this.
Okay.
And
I love this plan.
you can go buy a Barbie doll, you can go to the thrift shop, but I want it to be a spooky doll. And I want everyone to put like the old college try into it.
I'm very excited.
So I'm going to come up with a clever name for it and then invite around 10 people.
Cool.
And we're going to have haunted dolls.
We can share our paragraph with the group.
Yes, and the doll's name and why it's haunted. It's going to be so
It's
fun.
like Spooky Cabbage Patch.
Yeah, I'm excited. Maybe we'll put some photos on Hugo Girl. So
Yeah,
I mean,
why not?
If there's a doll that's left on a spaceship and it's in a spacesuit, bring it.
You guys, if you guys want to submit some spooky dolls and some spooky doll backstories to our email at hugogirlpodcast@gmail.com, we will share the good ones on our
That's true. We could just open it up.
social media.
The good ones.
The good ones. The bad ones, no.
You know the bad ones will be the best.
You just send us a Barbie, we're not posting it.
You have to do the college try as said earlier.
Oh, that's a fun idea.
So basically that means if you try it all, we'll share it on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're not going to be inundated, so we'll probably have the bandwidth to share them.
Keep the hope alive. Keep the dream alive.
All right, anything else,
Thanks,
friends?
guys. No, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes, please.
Because if you write a review, Lori can carry on living for another month. So do that for her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 I really want to say things when we do the room tone.